Lionhearts, it's your old pal Jordan the Lion, and if you can hear that echo, you know that that means today is it. We're out of here. I just left the poster, I left the sign up, just for this, just to say goodbye. Today, John and I are officially no longer residents of Hollywood. Our zip code changes, our life changes, our whole environment changes, and everything is gonna change for the best. So you can hear him shaking it off. Take a look at what I never thought I would see, this apartment empty. What do you think, Ja? Do you even recognize the place anymore? Nope, we're out of here. Well, it definitely feels good to have closed that chapter and to have moved on. And now let's go out and do a vlog. Daze with Jordan the Lion begins now. Alright, I was just out driving around. I need a haircut bad, and I just remembered today is the first day they're allowed to do haircuts again, so I'm gonna go in here and see if they can get me in. I know they're really just doing appointments only, but maybe I'll get lucky and they have an appointment open today. Finally getting a haircut after 2 months. So what I decided to vlog today, or actually who, is Tattoo, Hervé Villechaize. Hervé Villechaize was probably most notably known for Fantasy Island. Like I said, he played the lovable Tattoo that would always point out when the new arrivals were coming in, the plane to plane. But he was a lot more than that. He was someone who actually paved the way for a lot of little people in movies. He was someone who recently Peter Dinklage has made a movie about. I actually haven't seen it, but I'm sure it's got to be great because Peter Dinklage is great. And Hervé had a pretty interesting story. He was born in France. He was raised in Paris, and his father was a surgeon who would oftentimes try different surgeries on Hervé because he was born with proportionate dwarfism, which meant that his body was proportionate, but his organs inside would continue to grow at a normal pace, which basically throughout Hervé's life caused a lot of discomfort and a lot of pain inside of his body. I remember seeing Ricardo Montalban at one point say that he remembers watching Hervé just having trouble breathing on set, saying that he would be literally standing there going and they would also say that he would have to sleep on his knees leaning against a couch because it was painful for him to sleep otherwise. But he didn't allow this to stop him. He had a very creative mind, and also eventually when he was a teenager at 16 went to art school and became a very good painter, and in fact had some of his work in the Museum of Paris, which actually he was the youngest person to ever do that, and eventually got into doing theater and moved out to Los Angeles at the age of 21. Just figured we'd kind of walk through his last neighborhood, kind of get a feel for where he lived at the end. He actually made a lot of money as Tattoo, but he also went through quite a bit of it as well. So when Hervé moved out to Los Angeles, he couldn't quite, you know, immediately become a star. He did a lot of kind of off-the-wall B pictures and ended up having to do a lot of odd jobs. He did get to do some painting and made some money being an artist, but he had a lot of odd jobs, and one of them took him to work at Albert Cubby Broccoli's house. And Cubby Broccoli was the producer of the James Bond movie, so when he met Hervé, he decided to put him in as Knick-Knack in his new movie, and that was really the first way that he got any notoriety. And then, if you know Oingo Boingo, the brothers made a movie called The Forbidden Zone, and actually Hervé was living with one of the people they cast in the movie, and they ended up adding Hervé to the cast, and he was the king in the Forbidden Zone. And then through that, he eventually became Tattoo on Fantasy Island. So once Fantasy Island became greenlit and Ricardo Montalban was signed on to be the star of this new Aaron Spelling TV show, apparently it didn't take long before Hervé got very jealous, and Ricardo was originally slated to be the star, and it was supposed to be Fantasy Island starring Ricardo Montalban with Hervé Villechaize. But I guess Hervé immediately complained and wanted it to be "and" instead of "with." So Ricardo said, I gave in on that, but he said once the fan mail started coming in, he got a bit arrogant. And he said, I remember he would complain a lot on the set. Unfortunately, he was kind of hard to work with. And he also said, at one point, he said, in the first season, we didn't have trailers or anything yet. And the guests that would come would be given a trailer, but we would still use bathrooms on the lot. And I remember the director saying, what, you don't have a trailer yet? We got to get you a trailer because this show's going to be on for a few seasons. So he said they got me a trailer, and immediately Hervé wanted an exact same trailer. And he said, so they gave it to him. But he said, for me, I was a bit bigger guy. And he said, when you use the washroom in there, if you were doing anything other than washing your hands, it was pretty uncomfortable. So I asked him to turn the toilet so I would have a little bit more room. And they said, well, we'll just give you a different trailer, which happened to make it 3 feet longer than the one before. He said as soon as they put the trailer in the next day, Hervé complained and demanded the same exact size trailer, which his was already plenty big. He said it was just, he wanted everything equal, and he said it came down to the end of the 6th season. He said we knew that this was going to be one more season and then the show was going to be off the air, and he demanded that he make the same amount of money that Ricardo Montalban made, and they just simply flat out said, we cannot pay you what Ricardo is getting. And so Hervé decided to quit and was not on the last season of Fantasy Island, unfortunately, which cost him a lot of money. And apparently at one point he had this great ranch in the valley that he ended up having to give up, and he moved over to this neighborhood. Now, he also developed a heavy drinking problem. They said he would drink upwards of 2 to 3 bottles of wine a night, and he was only 90 pounds. They said he had an insatiable appetite for women, and also was taking a lot of pain pills because the rate his body and his organs and everything were growing inside was very painful for him. So he ended up battling a lot of depression for the last years of his life. And one of the things that he never wanted to do was he never wanted to be known as Tattoo, and he never wanted to go down just doing that part. But eventually he couldn't really get any other parts but guest starring parts and commercials, and most of the commercials wanted him to mimic in some way his character from Fantasy Island. So it's a pretty sad way to have his career start to fall apart. And then at the age of 50, he had been married twice, and both of those marriages hadn't worked out. He had a live-in common law girlfriend that apparently had her own place, but one day, at the age of 50 years old, Hervé decided to take his own life at the house I'm going to show you now. Well, it was at this house on the corner, 1993, that Hervé decided to end his life. He brought a tape recorder out onto the patio while his girlfriend was sleeping, and he turned on the tape recorder and said, I can't live like this. I've always been a proud man, and I always wanted you to make you proud of me, Kathy. And you could hear everything he did after that. He cocked the gun, put a pillow up to his chest, and fired through the pillow. The bullet went through his chest, went through the sliding glass door behind him and into the house. Kathy came out and rushed him to the hospital, and he passed away that evening. Hervé even says on the recording that he wants everything to go to Kathy, and sadly, the recording was left behind for Kathy to hear. But as I understand it, it's still in police custody to this day, the tape recorder and the recording. So this would have been his last house, those last years. You know, Hervé really worked his way up here in Hollywood because, like I said, he was doing odd jobs, and until he got cast in The Man with the Golden Gun by Albert Cubby Broccoli, he was actually living in his car during those days, and then went on to become a cultural icon the great tattoo. Now, what's kind of an interesting story is, if you saw my Sonny Bono vlog, I told a story in there, and I'll recap it here because it was very interesting. Sonny said that, you know, after he and Cher broke up, basically in those days he said, you know, a lot of people were doing guest starring appearances on like the Love Boat and Fantasy Island, and he said that if you were on those shows, you were either on your way up or you were on your way down. And he said when he was on Fantasy Island, that was his realization that he was on his way down and that he should be done with TV, because he said that he showed up on set and accidentally called Tattoo Poncho, and Tattoo stomped his foot. And Sonny said, I said to myself right there, maybe it's time I get out of this. I'm not meant for these kind of shows. And that's what pushed him into starting the restaurant, which is what pushed him into becoming a political figure, which was interesting because he was a guy who never voted. So thanks to HERVE VILLECHAIZE, it shifted the entire course of Sonny Bono's life. HERVE VILLECHAIZE has no statue anywhere, there's no memorial, and he was cremated and his ashes were scattered at sea. Oh, take a look at this neighborhood yard. They're bringing a little bit of joy to the neighborhood here. That's nice. Friendly cast of characters sitting over there. Okay, so what we need to do now is we are going over to Eric Singer's house because Amy's son Tristan is a huge fan of Kiss, and I asked Eric if it was possible, since he's home and they're not touring, for me to bring over a couple of sticks that he gave me and have him sign them for Tristan. And these bottom two are actually from this tour. This is the End of the Road tour, so I'm hoping that Tristan will like these. And actually Eric said, yeah, come on over, I got a bunch of stuff, I can probably give him some extra stuff, so who knows what he'll end up with. Look at that, he hooked up all three of those drumsticks that I took over, but he did a little bit more. Yeah, not only did he sign the sticks that I brought, but he actually gave me a couple of shirts and some extra special drumsticks. These are from a Canadian tour. If you look closely on there you can see, and the top ones are from the Kiss Cruise. Oh, and the drumsticks and the t-shirts weren't all. He also got a full signed photo by the entire band. Pretty freaking cool. What a lucky kid. Now that is a super cool friend. Thank you so much, Eric. Alright, my friends, we're gonna call it a night. I know this was kind of a sad vlog today, and I kind of knew that going in, but I still really wanted to do it. He's a really memorable guy, and especially from a very memorable show. That was one of those shows that just had guest star after guest star week after week and was always really popular. I just wanted to, you know, make sure he wasn't forgotten. But I also knew that Eric Singer would save the day and give us a little bit of joy by making a kid's day, and I sent Amy a picture of all that stuff that he gave me, and Tristan is super excited. She said he's beaming, so that was awesome. Have a great night, everyone. I want to thank you all for watching, and I want to thank Holly Edwards, Judith, Robert Carley, Lyndon Gould, Mark Gaiani, Connie Cabanella, and Barbara Kreiser for becoming my newest Patreons. We'll see you all next time. Have a great night, and goodbye.